Before his wedding to the daughter of Seoul's most prestigious family, the most feared mafia boss in South Korea decided to test his fiancée in a way that would shock everyone who knew him. He pretended to travel to Busan for urgent business, but instead concealed himself in a hidden surveillance room within his own estate, determined to see how his fiancée treated his ailing mother when she believed no one important was watching. What he witnessed about Jackie left him paralyzed with disbelief. But it was the quiet actions of a humble housekeeper that awakened feelings in the ruthless crime lord he thought had died with his father. You won't believe how this unfolds. The hidden surveillance room existed in a forgotten corner of the Park estate, tucked behind what appeared to be a solid bookshelf in the East Wing library. Only Chul and his head of security, Sang-hoon, knew it was there. Cold blue light from 8 monitors illuminated Chul's angular features as he settled into the leather chair he'd occupied during countless operations against rival families. This space had witnessed him ordering hits, coordinating territorial disputes, and dismantling enemies piece by piece. But today his target wasn't a competing syndicate. Today he was hunting for the truth about the woman wearing his engagement ring. Before we dive deeper into this story, click the subscribe button and tell us where you are watching from in the comment section. If this story moves you, share it with someone who loves a good tale. Do not forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another story. His mother's words echoed in his mind from their conversation 3 days ago. She'd gripped his wrist with surprising strength for someone so weakened by illness and said, "Watch how she acts when she thinks you can't see her, because that's when people show their real face." He'd wanted to dismiss her concerns as the paranoia of a sick woman, but Park Chul hadn't survived 38 years in Korea's criminal underworld by ignoring instincts, especially his mother's. The central monitor displayed the mansion's entrance hall. Chul watched Jackie standing by the ornate front doors, that radiant smile still painted across her flawless face as she waved at the black Mercedes pulling away with tinted windows that made it impossible to see the car was empty. Her lips formed words he'd heard 1,000 times. "Come back safely. I'll be waiting for you." Every sentence had sounded genuine when she'd whispered them against his chest last night. The door closed. In the space of a single heartbeat, Jackie's expression transformed so completely that Chul felt something cold slide down his spine. The warmth vanished from her face like someone had flipped a switch, replaced by something calculating and hard that he'd never witnessed in the 14 months they'd been together. She pulled her phone from her designer handbag and dialed with sharp, efficient movements. Chul increased the audio feed. Her voice came through crystal clear. "He's finally gone. Get here now. We have the whole weekend." "Not darling. Not Chul. Just he," spoken with the casual dismissiveness someone might use for an annoying obstacle that had finally been removed. Chul's jaw tightened, but he forced himself to remain still. Rushing to conclusions had gotten men killed in his world. He needed to see everything, understand the complete picture before he made his move. 25 minutes crawled past. Chul sat motionless, his dark eyes never leaving the screens. Then the estate's main gate opened and a sleek silver Audi entered, the same vehicle Chul had given to his chief financial officer, David Chin, as a year-end bonus. David stepped out, glancing around with obvious nervousness before hurrying toward the main entrance. What happened next made Chul's chest constrict as if someone had wrapped steel cables around his ribcage. Jackie rushed to David and threw her arms around him in the center of the marble entrance hall. Their mouths crashed together with desperate hunger, hands grasping and pulling as if they'd been starved for each other. This was happening in the exact spot where Chul had knelt 8 months ago and asked Jackie to be his wife, where she'd cried and told him it was the happiest moment of her entire life. Every tear had been a performance. Every trembling smile had been calculated. Every promise had been constructed from lies. Chul's hand clenched the armrest so violently the leather creaked beneath his fingers. His entire body went rigid with a fury that felt like molten metal in his veins. But he didn't move. He'd learned long ago that rage was a tool to be wielded with precision, not indulged recklessly. A con artist this skilled wouldn't have just one secret. He needed to know how deep the deception ran before he acted. He stared at the monitor where Jackie and David remained locked together and whispered in a voice that could have frozen fire. "Show me everything, Jackie. Show me exactly who you are." Jackie and David moved into the sitting room and settled onto the velvet couch Chul had imported from Milan for Jackie's birthday. David poured wine into crystal glasses and handed one to her, his expression troubled. He said they needed to be patient, that everything would be easier after the wedding. But Jackie cut him off sharply, her voice edged with irritation. She was exhausted from playing the devoted fiancée for over a year. Did David understand how draining it was to smile when she wanted to scream? To whisper, "I love you," when all she felt was contempt? To tolerate that dying old woman day after day pretending the woman mattered? Chul listened to every syllable in the surveillance room, and each word from Jackie carved deeper into whatever remained of his capacity to trust. Jackie set her glass down and stood, telling David she needed to blow off steam. Her heels clicked a steady rhythm across the marble as she headed toward the door at the end of the first-floor corridor where his mother's room was located. Chul switched camera feeds rapidly, his heart pounding when he realized exactly where she was going. Inside his mother's room, Mcsame was carefully helping her sit upright, offering water and the morning medications. The young woman with dark hair pulled into a neat bun was saying something that made his mother smile, a rare expression on a face ravaged by cancer slowly consuming her from within. The door burst open without warning. Jackie stepped inside and the temperature in the room seemed to plummet instantly. She looked at Mcsame with eyes like black ice and commanded in a voice stripped of all pretense, "Leave us. I need to speak with her privately." Mcsame hesitated, her gaze shifting to Chul's mother with obvious concern. His mother gave a slight nod as if telling her it was acceptable. Mcsame placed the water glass on the bedside table, lowered her head respectfully to Jackie and stepped into the hallway. But she didn't leave. She stopped just beyond the doorway, anxiety radiating from her posture as she strained to hear what might happen inside. Chul watched everything through multiple camera angles. He saw Mcsame standing guard and felt a flash of gratitude for this woman who genuinely cared about his mother. But his attention snapped back to Jackie the instant she began speaking. "You think you're important, you pathetic old woman?" Jackie's voice rang out, nothing like the gentle tone Chul had grown accustomed to hearing. "You're just an obstacle. A burden that needs to be removed." Chul's mother met Jackie's stare with steady, unflinching eyes, even as venom dripped from every word Jackie spoke. Jackie continued, her voice growing more vicious. She said after the wedding she'd have Chul's mother committed to the cheapest facility she could locate, somewhere remote and miserable, somewhere Chul would never bother visiting. Then she laughed, a cruel sound without warmth, and added that Chul's precious son was so pathetically blind. He actually believed she loved him. Blood rushed to Chul's head. His hands began trembling and the metal pen he was holding started to bend under the pressure of his grip. But Jackie wasn't finished. She walked to the table where the medication organizer sat and with a movement full of contempt, swept the entire thing onto the floor. Pills scattered across the hardwood, bouncing and rolling into every corner. Jackie stared down at the mess, then looked back at Chul's mother with a wicked smile. "You don't need these anymore. The sooner you're gone, the better for everyone." Chul's mother had remained silent throughout the verbal assault. Tears rolled down her hollow cheeks, but she didn't beg or plead. Finally she spoke, her voice soft but filled with genuine sorrow. "I pity you, Jackie. You'll never understand what love actually means." Jackie flinched as if the words had struck something buried deep inside her. But then fury flared and she raised her hand, striking Chul's mother across the face. Not a brutal blow, but hard enough to leave an angry red mark on fragile, papery skin. "Save your pity for yourself," Jackie hissed, then turned and walked out, leaving Chul's mother alone with medication scattered across the floor. In the surveillance room, the pen in Chul's hand shattered completely. Black ink spilled across his palm, staining his skin the color of the rage boiling through every nerve in his body. "She dared touch my mother," he whispered, his voice so cold the air around him seemed to crystallize into ice. Mcsame stood outside the door, her heart racing as she heard the crash from inside. She wanted to rush in immediately, but she understood her position. She was just a housekeeper, a woman with no authority. The sharp click of Jackie's heels on the floor announced she was coming out. Mcsame quickly lowered her gaze. Jackie walked past without acknowledging her existence, as if Mcsame were nothing more than furniture. She waited until Jackie's footsteps faded, then immediately pushed the door open. What she saw made her heart feel like it was being crushed. Chul's mother sat on the bed, tears streaming down her gaunt face, the red handprints still vivid. Scattered across the floor, pills lay everywhere. Mcsame didn't speak. She silently knelt on the cold hardwood and began gathering each pill individually. Her hands carefully wiped each tablet clean with the hem of her blouse. These medications were essential for managing the pain. She couldn't let a single one be wasted. In the surveillance room, Chul watched through the camera feed and the rage inside him suddenly shifted. He saw this young woman kneeling on the floor, collecting each pill as if it were precious. He saw her hands gently cleaning them one by one, without complaint, without hesitation. Jackie had knocked them down in seconds with contempt. Mcsame was recovering them one by one with devotion and love. The contrast pinned Chul to his chair. When she'd gathered every pill, Minso stood, retrieved fresh water and returned to the bedside. She gently helped Chul's mother sit up properly, adjusting pillows behind her back for support. "Let me help you take your medicine, Mrs. Park." Minasio's voice was soft and warm, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Chul's mother looked at the young woman and tears welled again. These were tears of being deeply moved. She took Minasio's hand, her voice trembling. "You shouldn't have to endure this for me, child. You should leave this house while you still can." Minacio shook her head firmly. "Mrs. Park is my family, the only family I have left. I would never abandon you. Not for anything." Chul's mother choked on a sob. During the 3 years Minacio had worked here, she'd come to view her as the daughter she'd never had. This young woman with sad eyes had brought comfort that even Chul couldn't provide because he was always consumed by business. Minacio had stayed with her through agonizing nights, had read to her when loneliness became unbearable, had massaged her aching joints every morning. Jackie called her a burden. Minacio called her family. Jackie wanted her gone. Minacio swore she'd never leave. Jackie struck her to demonstrate power. Minacio held her hand to offer love. In the surveillance room, Chul sat in absolute silence. He'd lived in this estate for decades, had passed this woman hundreds of times, and yet he'd never truly seen her. To him, she'd been the only background. But now, for the first time, he actually saw her. Not a servant, but a human being with a heart of pure gold shining in the darkness of this mansion built on lies. Chul stared at the screen and for the first time in years, a question unrelated to business or enemies rose in his mind. "Who are you, Minacio Kong?" That night when the estate had descended into sleep, Minacio sat alone in the small basement room designated for staff. The space was cramped, just large enough for a narrow bed and a battered desk. Minacio had never complained. The pale yellow light from an aging bedside lamp fell across her exhausted face as she sat on the bed holding a photograph. In the picture was a 6-year-old girl with a toothy grin, eyes bright as stars, Jiwoo, her baby sister, the sister she'd failed to save. Minacio stroked the photo gently. She remembered being 8 years old the night her mother disappeared. The next morning, all she found was an empty closet and a crumpled note. "I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore." Her father couldn't withstand the abandonment. He turned to alcohol, and whenever he was drunk, he poured his rage onto defenseless children. Minacio remembered nights she'd used her own small body to shield Jiwoo and Taemin, absorbing the blows. When Minacio was 13, her father died. He left behind nothing but debt and 3 children who didn't know where their next meal would come from. Minacio dropped out of school and took every job available, washing dishes, cleaning offices, delivering packages. She never complained. Then when she was 15, Jiwoo was diagnosed with acute leukemia. Minacio remembered that day as if it had happened yesterday. She ran everywhere begging and borrowing. But the hospital bills were astronomical. Jiwoo died in Minacio's arms on a freezing winter night. "Sister, don't cry. It doesn't hurt anymore." 6 years old. Minacio had never forgiven herself. Then 4 years ago, Taemin was diagnosed with end-stage kidney disease. This time, Minacio swore she wouldn't lose another sibling. That was why she'd come here, working at the Park estate for wages higher than anywhere else. Even if she had to endure Jackie's contempt, as long as she could cover Taemin's dialysis, it was worth it. Minacio set the photograph down and picked up her phone. "How are you feeling today?" she asked Taemin. "I'm okay, sis. Don't worry about me." Minacio smiled even though he couldn't see it. After she hung up, she sat in the darkness. She cried without making a sound, the way she'd cried for 12 years, alone in the dark, unseen, unheard. In the surveillance room, Chul sat motionless. His audio system had captured everything. And for the first time in many years, the heart of Seoul's coldest crime lord tightened with actual pain. Not because of Jackie's betrayal, but because of the crying of a woman carrying an entire world on her small shoulders. "What have you survived, Minacio? How can someone so broken still shine so brightly?" The second day dawned gray and cold. Jackie entered the mother's room to check if she was deteriorating. When she saw the older woman looking better, she realized the medication had been administered. Her anger ignited. That afternoon, Minacio was kneeling beside the bed gently massaging the older woman's legs. The door flew open. Jackie advanced with slow, threatening steps. "You gave her the medication, didn't you?" Minacio rose to her feet. "Mrs. Park needs her medication. It's my responsibility." Jackie raised her hand and struck Minacio across the face with a slap that cracked like thunder. Minacio's head snapped to the side, but she didn't cry. She didn't step back. She looked straight into Jackie's eyes. "Hit me if you want. I won't stop caring for Mrs. Park. I've been hit before by people far more terrifying than you. It didn't break me then and it won't break me now. Jackie jolted. She was accustomed to fear. But this ordinary housekeeper dared to look her in the eye. You'll regret this, Jackie gritted out. After the wedding you'll be the first person I throw out. Mcsame nodded. Then I'll care for her until that day comes. In the surveillance room, Chul surged from his chair. His body was taut like a wire about to snap. He spoke into his earpiece, his voice ice cold. If she touches Mcsame one more time, I don't need any more evidence. I'll handle her myself. That night, Jackie and David found each other in the sitting room. David pulled out a stack of documents. He told Jackie the prenuptial agreement had been revised. She would receive 55% of Chul's assets upon divorce. Divorce is too slow, Jackie said. She wanted the mother declared incompetent, then moved to a facility. And then an accident for Chul. David laughed, reporting he'd already moved $8 million to Singapore. Chul watched them laugh, mapping out wicked plans. A smile surfaced on his lips, the smile of a predator. She wanted to play games with a Park, he murmured. Then I'll show her how we play. He is called Sang-hoon. Dig deeper. Find out everything about Jackie Kim. I want to know who she really is. On the third morning, the black Mercedes returned to the estate. Chul stepped out, looking every bit the ruthless boss. Jackie ran to him, the perfect fiancé once more. Chul, you're back early. I missed you so much. She threw her arms around him. Chul felt a wave of nausea but held her, his eyes cold as stone. I missed you too, Jackie. We have much to discuss. He led her into the library where the hidden room was located. David was already there, pretending to go over financial reports. Chul sat behind his desk. I've decided to move the wedding up. Why wait? Jackie's eyes lit up with greed. Oh, Chul. That's wonderful. Chul leaned forward. But first I want to show you something. A little wedding present. He pressed a button on his desk. The bookshelf behind him slid open, revealing the monitors. Jackie's face went white. David stood up so quickly his chair fell over. Chul played the footage. The hall. The kiss. The sitting room. The verbal abuse of his mother. The slap. The Singapore bank accounts. The room went deathly silent, save for the sound of Jackie's own voice on the recording. He's just an obstacle. I want him dead. Jackie began to tremble. Chul, I can explain. This is a misunderstanding. David forced me. Silence, Chul commanded. The weight of his authority crushed the room. David, you've been with me for 10 years. You knew what happened to the last man who stole from me. And Jackie, you touched my mother. He signaled and Sang-hoon entered with several guards. Take them to the basement. We'll discuss their debts later. As they were dragged out, Jackie screaming for mercy, Chul didn't even look at her. He walked straight past her, down the long corridor to his mother's room. He didn't go to bed first. He went to the corner where Mcsame was standing, trembling as she realized the master had seen everything. He stopped in front of her. He saw the faint yellowing of the bruise on her cheek. Mcsame, he said. His voice, usually a weapon, was soft. I heard your phone call. I know about Taemin. I know about Ji-woo. Mcsame looked up, tears finally breaking through. I was only trying to save him, sir. I'll leave now. I'm sorry. Chul reached out, his hand hesitating before gently cupping her face. You aren't leaving. You're the only person in this house who didn't lie to me. You're the only one who cared for my mother when you had everything to lose. He turned to his mother, who was watching with a knowing smile. Mother was right. I needed to see. And what I saw was that the woman I was supposed to marry was a monster, and the woman I should have seen all along was a saint. Chul looked back at Mcsame. Taemin is being moved to the best hospital in Seoul today. I've already arranged for a donor. He will live. And you will never have to clean a floor again unless you want to. Your family now. Mcsame collapsed into his arms, sobbing, not from grief this time but from the weight of the world finally being lifted. Chul held her, his heart finally thawing. The most feared man in Seoul had found his truth, not in power or wealth, but in the quiet strength of a woman who gathered scattered pills on a cold hardwood floor. The third day at the Park estate began with an urgent call from Chul's security chief. Chul sat in the surveillance room watching Jackie through the cameras when his phone vibrated. He answered immediately, noting the tension in the caller's voice. Sir, I have critical information, the chief said. Jackie Kim doesn't exist. The real Jackie Kim died in a car accident in Hong Kong 6 years ago. The woman in your house is Jackie Zhao. Chul felt a physical blow to his chest. He remained motionless as the chief detailed the history of Jackie Zhao, a woman born in a Shanghai slum and trained by a professional con artist. She had stolen the identity of the deceased heiress, exploiting the Kim family's reclusive nature and the secret of the real Jackie's adoption. She had built a flawless mask, playing the role of a refined socialite to infiltrate Chul's life. "I'm here," Chul said, his voice dropping to a glacial tone. He watched Jackie on the monitor, looking carefree as she scrolled through her phone. He realized he had been played by a professional fraud. His anger settled into a cold, sharp resolve. "I want her destroyed," he commanded. "Completely. She chose to play with fire, now she's going to burn." By the afternoon, Jackie began to feel a creeping unease. She noticed the housekeeper, Mcsame, was always near Chul's mother, watching and listening. Recognizing a potential threat to her facade, Jackie confronted Mcsame in a shadowed hallway, slamming her against the wall. "I know you've been listening," Jackie hissed. She didn't stop at physical intimidation. She revealed she knew about Mncame's brother, Taemin, and his need for a kidney transplant. "If you say one word, I'll ensure he never gets that transplant. He'll die waiting." Mncame trembled, the image of her fragile brother flashing before her eyes. For the first time she begged for mercy. Jackie released her with a triumphant smile, leaving the housekeeper shaken and terrified. In the surveillance room, Chul witnessed the entire exchange. His fury was a silent storm. He watched Mncame retreat to her room later that night to write a farewell letter to his mother, a testament of love in the face of certain doom. Watching her shoulders shake as she wrote, Chul felt something in his chest break. He didn't weep for the betrayal, but he wept for the sincerity of a woman who had nothing left but her kindness. "Enough," he whispered. "Tomorrow I end it all." On the fourth morning, 3 days ahead of schedule, Chul's black Mercedes pulled into the driveway. Jackie, eating breakfast with her accomplice and lover, David, panicked. "It's Chul. He's back early," she cried. David bolted out the back door while Jackie composed herself, smoothing her silk robe and donning her practiced smile. Chul entered, looking every bit the composed businessman, though he held enough rage to incinerate the estate. Jackie greeted him with a kiss, unaware of the coldness in his eyes. "I couldn't stay away," he told her, his voice sweet but deadly. Later that day he suggested a special family dinner, insisting that Mncame join them as a guest to thank her for caring for his mother. Though Jackie was irritated by the inclusion of a servant, she could not refuse. The dining room was set with white candles and orchids, but the atmosphere was suffocating. Chul sat at the head of the table, David sat across from Jackie, invited under the guise of financial business, and Mncame sat where Chul directed, despite Jackie's protests. "I have a special presentation tonight," Chul announced after the main course. He pressed a remote and the large screen on the wall flickered to life. The room fell silent as footage played. Jackie and David embracing in the hall, Jackie insulting Chul's mother, and finally Jackie slapping Mncame. The most damning evidence was the audio of Jackie laughing as she discussed staging accidents to seize Chul's assets. As David tried to flee, security guards blocked the exits. Jackie collapsed to the floor, sobbing and grasping at Chul's leg, pleading that she loved him. Chul kicked her hand away with disgust. "I know you're not Jackie Kim," he said. "You're Jackie Zhao. A fraud. Nobody." David immediately began to confess everything. The forged documents, the offshore accounts, hoping for mercy. Chul ignored him, ordering his men to take them both away. As Jackie was dragged out, she shrieked threats at Mncame, who watched with calm, peaceful eyes. The war was over. A week later, the estate felt light, the oppressive weight of lies finally lifted. Jackie and David had been stripped of their stolen wealth and exposed to the elite circles they once manipulated, ensuring they would never find a foothold in the city again. Chul called Mncame to his office, but not to give her orders. "From now on you're not a housekeeper. Your family," he told her. He informed her that all of Taemin's hospital bills were paid, he had been moved to the best facility in Seoul, and a matching donor had been found. Mncame fell to her knees in tears, finally receiving the motherly embrace of Mrs. Park. Chul watched them, a genuine smile touching his lips for the first time in 20 years. Late that night, Chul visited his mother. She saw right through him. "You've been watching Mncame, haven't you?" she asked. Chul admitted his confusion, his fear of trusting again after such a monumental betrayal. His mother took his hand. "Jackie was a mirror, she only reflected what you wanted to see. But Mncame is a window. She shows you exactly who she is, even the broken parts." In the following weeks, Chul changed. He spent more time at home watching Mncame in the garden. He saw her talking to the flowers, her laughter clear and bright. He realized the darkness in his life dissolved whenever she was near. One night on the rooftop they stood together overlooking the city. When their hands brushed, neither pulled away. "Why are you so good to me?" she whispered. "Because you showed me what real kindness looks like," he replied. A month later Chul took Mcsame to a cemetery. They stopped before a small grave, Jiwoo Kang. Mncame's heart stopped. Chul knelt and placed white flowers on the grass, thanking the young girl for sending her sister into his life. "She saved my mother. She saved me," he said. In that moment of shared grief and healing, Chul confessed his feelings. "I've lived in darkness so long I forgot what light looks like. But when you smile, the darkness fades." Beneath the sunset, beside the grave of the sister she had lost, they shared their first kiss, a bridge between pain and healing. 1 year later, a small ceremony was held in the garden. It wasn't the lavish affair Chul had once imagined, but it was perfect. Minhyo walked down an aisle of white petals toward the man who had become her home. Mrs. Park, watching from her wheelchair, gave a speech that brought the small group to tears. "I told my son to watch how someone treats me when they think no one is looking. He didn't find a princess, he found a warrior with a gentle heart." That evening, as they stood on the rooftop where their journey truly began, Mncame's thanked Chul for saving her. He shook his head. "No, Mncame's, you saved me." They looked out over Seoul, two souls once shattered, now whole. The story of the Park estate serves as a reminder that the true measure of character is found in how one treats the vulnerable. Wealth can buy a mask, but it cannot buy a soul. In a world of betrayal, the brightest light often comes from those who have walked through the darkest nights and still choose to shine.